Here are the top stories for today, December 9, 2021.
Matagumpay po nating naisagawa ang National Vaccination Days dahil sa tulong, suporta at pakikiisa ng bawat mamamayang Pilipino.
More local government units were awarded for their efforts in accelerating the COVID-19 vaccination drive. President Duterte maintains his policy of being friend to all and enemy to none. Another country has been put on the government's red list. And simbang gabi approaches, the NCRPO says it will go strict in implementing health protocols with the use of Yantok. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. A culmination activity was held this morning in Mandaluyong City to recognize the efforts of the local government units during the 3-day Bayanihan Bakunahan Drive. The details from Marita Mawahay.
The first run of the nationwide vaccination drive was held from November 29 to December 3, 2021. Local government units with the highest number of COVID-19 vaccines administered received gift certificates worth 25,000 pesos from SM Supermalls. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar Carlito Galvez Jr. said over 10 million vaccine doses were administered nationwide during the 5-day event.
Matagumpay po nating naisagawa ang National Vaccination Days dahil sa tulong, suporta at pakikiisa ng bawat mamamayang Pilipino. Sa atin pong patuloy na pagbabayanihan, 39.57 or almost 40 million ng Pilipino ang fully vaccinated na. Samantalang 57.64 million naman ang kabuuang bilang na nabakunahan na sa napakalaking naidulot ng National Vaccination Day sa ating pagpapalawig sa vaccination program sa buong bansa. In just 3 days, many of our local government units were able to triple or even quadruple sa BARM, 10 beses natin lang na napalaki ang kanilang mga capacity. Actually, kausap ko po ang Executive Secretary ng BARM kahapon at kinongratulate ko po siya dahil first time po na nangyari na ang kanilang vaccination ay lumagpas ng 100,000 a day. Kaya tuwan-tuwa po siya, sabi niya, at sabi po ni ES Makakwa na pagpapatuloy po nila ang kanilang vaccination.
The following LGUs were awarded with the highest improvement in their average job rates during the national vaccination drive. These are General Santos City as best city with 673 average jobs, Tawi-Tawi as best province with 2,688 average jobs, and BARMM as best region with 785 average jobs. Meanwhile, Task Force Deputy Chief Implementer Vince Dizon commended not only the awarded LGUs but other localities as well for their support and cooperation.
Napaka-importante po nung gagawin natin ngayon na i-recognize natin ang ating mga top performers ng ating nakaraang bakuna. Pero I think kailangan ma-appreciate natin na kahit na meron tayong mga i-recognize na ngayon na talagang mga magagaling na LGUs, probinsya, regions. Lahat po ng ating mga LGUs ay ginawa ang kanilang dapat gawin. At dahil po doon, talagang napakadami po nating nabakunahan.
Mandaluyong Mayor Menchi Abalos also extended her heartfelt thanks to the people.
I am truly honored to be part of the Bayanihan and Bakunahan Recognition Program as our testament of responsibility to protect and safeguard our constituents and the entire Filipino people in our continuous fight against COVID-19. Our 3-day special vaccination day was a resounding success, and we owe it from the great people who have given so much time and energy to save lives and to save our future.
The second run of the Bayanihan Bakunahan is slated next week from December 15 to 17. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muahe.
Malacanang said President Rodrigo Duterte's decision to accept the invitation of U.S. President Joe Biden Jr. to participate in the Summit for Democracy is consistent with his independent foreign policy. Acting presidential spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles made this remark after the president welcomed the opportunity to share the Philippine democratic experience and commitment to democratic values and nation building at the Summit for Democracy. Nograles said the Duterte administration has always been consistent in its pursuance of an independent foreign policy and that the president has always insisted on a policy that will first and foremost serve the people and protect the interests of the country. The Philippines is one of the United States' oldest Asian partners and security ally in Southeast Asia. China, meanwhile, dismissed the U.S.-organized summit, noting that there is no fixed model of democracy. Another batch of COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccines arrived this morning at the NAIA Terminal 1. The more than 255,000 doses of the jabs vaccines are procured by the private sector. The government targets to inoculate at least 7 million workers during the second run of the Bayanihan Bakunahan program. During the culmination event this morning in Mandaluyong City, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III says the government aims to fully vaccinate at least 70 million Filipinos in the first quarter next year and 99 million before the end of President Rodrigo Duterte's term by June 2022. Private employees who will get vaccinated during the second run of the Bayanihan Bakunahan program will not be marked absent. In an interview, Cabinet Secretary and acting presidential spokesperson Carlo Nograles said Phase 2 of the national vaccination drive will be held from December 15 to 17. He said it would focus on the second dose of vaccines for around 7 million individuals. Nograles also explained that employers should allow their employees to go to the vaccination sites without marking them absent as long as employees will show proof that they got jabbed. Nograles also clarified that on-site workers are not being compelled to get their COVID-19 jabs. He made the remark after a complaint was filed against the Supreme Court and the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases in connection with the implementation of a supposed mandatory vaccination for on-site workers. Nograles admitted that he has not personally seen the complaint, but noted that the palace will have to wait on the required response sought by the court. He maintained that there is no IATF resolution compelling anyone to get inoculated against COVID-19. Meanwhile, the Department of Labor and Employment said there are now 17 million workers that are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Labor Assistant Secretary Dominic Tutay attributed the sharp rise in the number of vaccinated workers to the successful National Bayanihan Bakunahan drive last week. The second run will be held next week, December 15 to 17. As for vaccine supplies, the newly shipped Pfizer vaccine came just in time for the national vaccination days. A total of 1,082,250 doses of government-procured jabs arrived last night, which will be delivered in areas with low inoculation rate. Dr. Maria Paz Corrales of the National Task Force Against COVID-19 said, among the 20 key priority areas with a low inoculation rate include Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Bicol, Western Visayas, Central Visayas, Eastern Visayas, and Mindanao. The Philippines target to reach population protection and vaccinate at least 54 million people before 2021 ends. As of December 6, more than 38.69 million people have been fully vaccinated in the country, while 561,125 already received their booster shots. The municipal government unit of Sumilao is cited for being the first in Bukidnon to achieve community immunity against COVID-19. PCOO Secretary Martin Andanar lauded the local government unit of Sumilao for inoculating at least 76% of their population eligible, as reported by Mayor Jose Antonio Villo. Andanar is in Sumilao for the turnover ceremony in line with the PCOO's Gender and Development Program. During the said program, women frontliners received gift baskets and health kits from their local government unit. Andanar commended the women attendees for working hard along with everybody in responding to the impacts of the pandemic in their respective communities. Meanwhile, Mayor Villo expressed his gratitude to the Duterte administration's anti-insurgency drive and hoped that the program of the task force will continue to be implemented in the coming years. Sumilao Bukidnon is among the municipalities in Region 10 with barangays who benefited from the banner program of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict and the Support to Barangay Development Program. Still to come, the Interagency Task Force bars travelers from France from entering the Philippines. And a lawmaker pushes for a probe on large-scale smuggling of agricultural products. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Mga kabida, importante pa rin ang disiplina sa pag-iwas sa pagkalat ng COVID-19. Upang masiguro ang kaligtasan ninyo at inyong mga pamilya, hanapin ang safety seal sticker sa inyong pupuntahan. Mapamall man ito, kainan, pasyalan, o kahit na anumang public o private business establishment. Ang safety seal ay tanda na ang isang establishment ay sumusunod sa minimum public health standards ng gobyerno upang maiwasan ang pagkalat ng COVID-19. Ating tandaan, bida ang may tatak. Hashtag safety seal para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
Mga kabida, hindi pa rin nawawala ang banta ng COVID-19. Upang masiguro ang kaligtasan ninyo at ng inyong pamilya, hanapin ang safety seal sticker na inyong pupuntahan. Mapamall man ito, kainan, pasyalan o kahit anumang business establishment, ang safety seal ay tanda na ang isang establishment ay sumusunod sa minimum public health standards ng gobyerno upang maiwasan ang pagkalat ng COVID-19. Ating tandaan, bida ang may disiplina. Hashtag safety seal para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
France is now included in the red list for COVID-19. This after it registered a surge in COVID-19 cases. Travelers from the country are barred from entering the Philippines due to high risk of infection starting tomorrow until December 15. Cabinet Secretary and Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles said passengers who have been to France within 14 days immediately preceding arrival in the Philippines and who arrive on or after 12:01 a.m. of December 10 but before 12:01 a.m. of December 13 shall be required to undergo facility-based quarantine for 14 days with RT-PCR test on the 7th day. Those with negative RT-PCR results will still be required to undergo the 14-day quarantine period. Only Filipinos returning to the country via government-initiated or non-government-initiated repatriation and bayanihan flights may be allowed entry subject to existing testing and quarantine protocols for red list countries, territories, or jurisdictions. All passengers merely transiting through France shall not be deemed as having come from or having been to the said country, even if they stayed in the airport the whole time and were not cleared for entry into such country by its immigration authorities. As part of preparations for the May 9, 2022 elections, the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, has deposited the final local source code and trusted build of the automated election system to its Information Technology Department. The election source code will be deposited in the ITD's vault at the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. COMELEC Executive Director Bartolome Sino Cruz Jr. and ITD Acting Director Jeannie Flororita received the codes during the turnover ceremony held at the Diamond Hotel in Manila on Wednesday. COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said the deposit is necessary to ensure that there is a trusted copy that will not be open to tampering or alteration. Jimenez said the verifiable hash codes will be published on the COMELEC website for the people can check for themselves if the vote counting machines they are using on election day are the same ones that have been subjected to the final trust bill. Internally displaced persons of Marawi City received additional livelihood support and other assistance from the Australian government and a local humanitarian group. Claire Gighe has the story.
As the Marawi Recovery Project, or MRP, which started in October 2017, ends this year, 51,000 persons affected by the Marawi siege have already benefited. As such, the Australian government's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade and the Community and Family Services International, or CFSI, remain committed to providing support for the recovery of the internally displaced persons of Marawi City. Just recently, both the DFAT Australia and the CFSI turned over various assistance to 17 beneficiaries. Under the Marawi COVID Recovery Project, or MCR, there are 10 beneficiaries who received livelihood support, such as assorted grocery items, food vending items, and e-loading business, while there were 2 beneficiaries of assistive devices and birth certificates, and 3 couples who received marriage certificates. They are part of the projected 4,000 households that will benefit throughout June 2023. Meanwhile, Deputy Head of Mission Richard Sisson of the Embassy of Australia is pleased to know how the assistance helped IDPs in providing livelihood support, psychosocial services, assistance to people with special needs, and protection support, including identification of documents such as birth and marriage certificates.
And Australia remains committed and is always ready to support the Philippines and the Filipino in times of need. Our work continues as we commence the Marawi Recovery Project this year to build on the gains of the Marawi Recovery Project and sustain our support to internally displaced persons, especially those of you who have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Accordingly, CFSI will continue to provide assistance through the Marawi COVID Recovery Project, or MCRP, funded by the Australian government.
You know the Marawi Recovery Project. It started in October 2017. It will end this month, but the Marawi COVID Recovery Project, which started in February 2021, will continue at least through June 2023. Let me repeat, we're not ending, we are continuing to work with you and your people.
For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gighe of the Philippine Information Agency, Lanao del Sur.
Authorities have arrested the claimant of close to 5,000 pieces of smuggled ecstasy tablets worth 8.5 million pesos in Las Pinas City on Tuesday. The ecstasy tablets were intercepted by customs officers at the port of Clark on Monday. The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency identified the suspect as Ana Fe Morilla, also known as Jonah Ileve, a resident of Barangay CAA Las Pinas. BOC Port of Clark District Collector Alexandra Lumuntad said the shipment from Brussels, Belgium was declared as a lamp and subjected to examination upon arrival. Authorities discovered 6 transparent plastic pouches covered with carbon film concealed in the lamp. BOC records showed that the operation is the 7th major drug apprehension of the Port of Clark for 2021. To date, it has seized 53.5 million pesos worth of illegal drugs. Meanwhile, in Zamboanga City, lawmen have arrested 3 persons and seized more than 110,000 pesos worth of illegal drugs in separate anti-drug operations. Suspect Aldrin John Rubio was arrested in an anti-drug operation on Tuesday in Barangay Kasanyangan. He yielded some 11 grams of suspected shabu and marked money. On the same day, Jerome Aleria was arrested in Barangay Tugbungan, where he yielded suspected shabu, marked money, and drug paraphernalia. Later, undercover policemen arrested Sampang in a buy-bust operation in Murga Drive, Barangay Santa Catalina. Authorities retrieved some 34,000 pesos worth of suspected shabu. Moving on to business, a lawmaker has pushed for an immediate inquiry by the Senate Committee of the hole into the alleged large-scale smuggling of agricultural products across the country. Senate President Vicente Soto III on Wednesday claimed of continued smuggling and corruption which hurt the local agriculture industry. He said the laws enacted to modernize the agricultural sector would be useless if smuggling and corruption continue. Soto said large-scale smuggling of agricultural products, including rice, is economic sabotage under Republic Act 10845, the Anti-Agricultural Smuggling Act of 2016. Soto also lamented that port congestion, red tape, extortion, and under-the-table ways continue to burden the businesses. He said the members of Congress would look into these issues. Billions of pesos worth of smuggled goods were seized in 25 operations documented by the Bureau of Customs from May to November 18 of this year. Up next, the Presidential Task Force on Media Security vows to look into the killing of veteran reporter Jess Malabanan. And the NCRPO will send police carrying Yantok to maintain order and safety on Simbang Gabi. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. The Presidential Task Force on Media Security has welcomed the operationalization of the DWPF 92.1 Gimpong FM station in Tabuk City, Kalinga Province. DWPF 92.1 Gimpong operates under Radio Pilipinas of the Presidential Communications Operations Office. PT-FOM's Executive Director Undersecretary Joel C. Eggo called this a testament to the efforts of the governments to bring vital information to indigenous people in far-flung areas. During the inauguration of the radio station on Wednesday, Eggo stressed the need to replicate this project in IP communities all over the country. He said the operationalization of the radio station through the assistance of Kalinga Lone District Representative Alan Jesse Mangawang will give voice to the IPs of the Cordillera. The PT-FOMS also joins Malacanang in condemning the killing of veteran reporter Jesus Jess Malabanan, a correspondent for the Manila Standard. Malabanan was shot at close range by motorcycle-riding gunman while tending to his store in Calbayog City Wednesday evening. He was 58 years old. Egco himself, a veteran journalist who worked for The Standard, vowed that the PT FOMS will stop at nothing in bringing the perpetrators to justice. He reminded media practitioners to report to PT FOMS any threat or harassment so that they can be acted on as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the PNP is conducting hot pursuit operations to apprehend the suspects who fled towards the direction of San Isidro, Northern Samar. Starting December 16, police will be using rattan sticks or yantok while patrolling churches holding the traditional simbang gabi. National Capital Region Police Office Chief Major General Vicente Danao said police will use the yantok to maintain distancing protocols and even discipline troublemakers and other aggressive behavior. The 1-meter sticks were first used last year to enforce physical distancing and prevent mass gatherings when Metro Manila was still under General Community Quarantine or GCQ. Danao said all NCRPO personnel will be allowed to report to duty in areas near their residences to give them the opportunity to spend more time with their families during the holiday season. Meanwhile, community fireworks displays would be allowed during the New Year celebration in designated areas. Government troops have spotted remnants of the group of slain New People's Army leader George Caores Madlos in the boundaries of Bukidnon and Lanao del Sur. Brigadier General Jose Maria Cuerpo, commander of the Army's 103rd Infantry Brigade, said the group, with around 20 members, were the same men that military forces encountered on December 4 in Maging, Lanao del Sur. Cuerpo said they are also verifying if the same group was behind the December 3 bombing of the transmission tower of the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, some 5 kilometers away from the encounter site. Madlos, one of the high-ranking officers of the NPA, was killed in an encounter in Ipasugong, Bukidnon on October 30. Health authorities in the European Union have approved the use of a combination of COVID-19 vaccines to improve immunity against the disease. More on this and other news overseas from Chris Mundo.
European Union health agencies have approved the mixing of traditional and mRNA-based COVID-19 vaccines. In a joint statement, the European Medicines Agency and the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control said combining vaccines produces good levels of antibodies against the COVID-19 virus and a higher T-cell response than using the same vaccine. According to the new guidance, the use of a different shot for the second dose or as a booster shot 6 to 9 months after the first series is safe and can offer flexibility of national authorities in case of a vaccine shortage. The EMA has authorized the Pfizer-BioNTech, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccines. Meanwhile, Canada is banning unvaccinated NBA players from entering the country starting January 15 next year. This means players will need to get vaccinated or stay home from Canada away games with the Toronto Raptors. A new Canadian law mandates that all visitors entering the country should be vaccinated. For its part, the NBA says 97% of its players are vaccinated, and sources say more than 60% have received booster shots. In Japan, scientists have developed masks that can trace coronavirus after being exposed to ultraviolet lights. A team of scientists at Kyoto Prefectural University in Western Japan developed the masks using antibodies extracted from ostrich eggs. The team, led by University President Yasuhiro Tsukamoto, believes the masks will offer users an easy way to test whether they have contracted the virus. If all goes well with the ongoing testing, the team hopes to gain approval from Japanese authorities to sell the masks next year. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories.
Matagumpay po nating naisagawa ang National Vaccination Days dahil sa tulong, suporta at pakikiisa ng bawat mamamayang Pilipino.
More local government units were awarded for their efforts in accelerating the COVID-19 vaccination drive. President Duterte maintains his policy of being friend to all and enemy to none. Another country has been put on the government's red list. And simbang gabi approaches, the NCRPO says it will go strict in implementing health protocols with the use of Yantok. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19.
So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And for our holiday countdown, it is 16 more days to go before Christmas. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.